Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, Simone here. So today I'm going to be filming a much anticipated May library haul, and I have some amazing books out from the library at the moment, and I do love talking about library books, so I hope that you enjoy this too, but let's get on with the haul. So the first book I got is because I'm trying to read more classics and kind of ones that I've heard lots about, obviously, hence it's classic, but I've still not read them, so I really want to get to some more. So the first one I have is Frankenstein by Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley, and I've heard, obviously, oh, I've done it again. Look, it's massive writing. I've got the large print one by accident, I didn't even realise. I seem to have a thing about that. Anyway, everyone pretty much knows what Frankenstein is about. It is about a monster created by Dr. Frankenstein, I believe. I don't really know exactly, like, the exact story of this, but I've heard, obviously, amazing things. It's not a very long book. It's, well, this one's 360 pages, but it's because it's large print. Again, I've heard, obviously it's a classic, so it's one of those stories that I just really want to read, and I want to get to very soon. Right, I'm vowing not to say very soon, like I want to get to this very soon, like quite clearly I've got them out of the library, so I want to read them. I'm going to try not to say that for the rest of the video. See how it goes. The next one is Into the Wild by Jon Krakauer, and as far as I know this is a true story. I think that Jon Krakauer found all this stuff out and then wrote a book about it. This is basically about a man who, in 1992, he went and hitchhiked to Alaska and walked alone into the wilderness north of Mount McKinley. And I think he'd given up all of his possessions and then decided to just randomly go and hike. And then they found, did they find a camera? Yeah, they find his body and they find a camera and maybe a diary or something, I'm not entirely sure. They find something of his anyway that tells them the story. And then they've made this into a book, so, Jon Krakauer wrote it, and I think this is also a film, which I'm guessing this is the film cover. This isn't a very long book, but I find the whole thing really interesting, and it's kind of a little bit morbid that it's after he's died, and you kind of will know how this is going to end, obviously. But I'm also really interested to see how Jon Krakauer has put all of that into a story, so yeah, I feel like this could be really interesting. Up next is a massive childhood throwback, and you might all know that I'm reading a few different books that I read as a child. I've been doing it over the last year and a bit, or probably last year I would say, and this one is The Story of Tracy Beaker by Jacqueline Wilson. I used to read basically every Jacqueline Wilson book as a child. I absolutely loved it, and I loved the TV show The Story of Tracy Beaker as well, and I was like, do you know what, I'm just going to get out of the library and read it again, so I read it so long ago. And I love that this is it's illustrated by Nick Sharratt, and I remember all these illustrations, and I really just want to read loads of Jacqueline Wilson's books, so I'm kind of hoping this was the start of it for me. Yeah, can't wait for this, but I didn't say I was going to read it soon. You noticed that? Then it's come to my attention that I own quite a few sequels to series that I've maybe read the first book of, which I don't own anymore, or I haven't read the first book but I own the second, and I really want to reread or read for the first time the first one so I can read ones I have in my collection. So I have here Angels and Demons by Dan Brown, which I have read before, and I've read, the second one is the Da Vinci Code, and then I think it's the Lost Symbol, and then I own Inferno by Dan Brown, which is just right there, and I haven't read that one yet because I wanted to reread these. Now, I always was under the impression the Da Vinci Code was the first one because well, the first film that came out was Da Vinci Code. Apparently not. Angels and Demons is actually the first one, so I really want to reread this. I do really love Dan Brown's writing, and I find the whole storylines really fascinating. They can be confusing, and there's lots of symbols and different bits and bobs in, but I love it. And I really want to reread this one so I can read the Da Vinci Code and then continue on with the series, because I believe there's another, I think there's 5 books altogether in this series, and I think I've read 3 of them. I really want to read the others in the series at some point. Next up I have it's just called Flame in the Mist by Renee Ahdieh, and as far as I know this has kind of been pitched to me as a Mulan retelling, but then I also remember seeing somebody talking about this saying it's nothing like Mulan, so I don't know. This, what does it say? I really don't know much else about this. I think it's about a woman who her family's going to be kidnapped or something. and then she tries to like, she survives an attack on her family, and then I think she has to, I don't know exactly, I really don't know. The cover of this is gorgeous though, and I'm just really fascinated by YA fantasy at the minute. I seem to be reading a lot and really enjoying them, so hopefully I like this one too. Then I have a book that I know nothing about, but I've heard the author is amazing and I really wanted to read it, like read her writing, so I thought I'd just pick up one that was on my like one that was at my library, and this is the one I got. So this is NW by Zadie Smith. I'm pretty sure I own White Teeth by Zadie Smith, and I just haven't picked it up yet. But this one just sounded really fascinating to me. I will very, very quickly read the synopsis, just because I don't really know how to explain it. It says, "This is the story of a city, the northwest corner of a city. Here you'll find guests and hosts, those with power and those without it, people who live somewhere special and others who live nowhere at all, and many people in between. Every city is like this, cheek by jowl living, separate worlds. And then there are the visitations, the rare times a stranger crosses a threshold without permission or warning, causing a disruption in the whole system. Like the April afternoon, a woman came to Leah Hanwell's door seeking help, disturbing the peace, forcing Leah out of her isolation." Zadie Smith's brilliant tragicomic new novel follows 4 Londoners, Leah, Natalie, Felix and Nathan, as they try to make adult lives outside Coldwell, the council estate of their childhood. From private houses to public parks, at work and at play, their London is a complicated place, as beautiful as it is brutal, where the thoroughfares hide the back alleys, and taking the high road can sometimes lead you to a dead end. Depicting the modern urban zone, familiar to town dwellers everywhere, Zadie Smith's NW is a quietly devastating novel of encounters, mercurial and vital like the city itself. Again, I don't really feel that tells me much about what this book is about, but I really want to read it, and it's a beautiful book, so hopefully that will happen. Then I have one that doesn't really need to be explained. That is Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. I'm trying to read all of John Green's books at the moment because I've read all of the other 5 that he's written, should I say. I liked 2 of them and I didn't like 3 of them, so I'm hoping this falls on like, and then we'll have an even split. I think this follows somebody with OCD. And I believe John Green has OCD, so I feel like this is own voices, but again, I could be wrong. Really looking forward to this, and I've heard fantastic things about basically everyone that's read this. Then I have one I'm so excited about. As you might all know if you watched my 5-star favourite reads of 2017, which I'll link below, I mentioned my favourite book of 2017 was 6 of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, and I've been just trying to decide whether I want to read Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo, which is the sequel to that. This is the second one in the duology, and I've decided to bite the bullet. I'm going to read it. I figure if I love 6 of Crows that much, this cannot let me down. So I'm fingers crossed that I really love this because I'm so excited to read it. Next up I have The House of the Scorpion by Nancy Farmer, and the only thing I know about this book is it's a dystopian. I wanted to read a Nancy Farmer book because I've heard of her writing and I've heard it's really good, and this was kind of the first one. In fact, I think it's the only one that my library had. They don't have a massive selection sometimes. I don't know anything else about it than that. I know it's a really cool cover and that it's a dystopian book, so we'll see. Once I read it, I will let you know what it's about. Then I have an author that I've read a lot from, and you all know this, I know, and this is actually part of the series. This is The Games by James Patterson and Mark Sullivan, which is the next book in the private series. I mean, we're on like 15 or something now. I know I said I wasn't going to read any more of these, but I decided getting it from the library is not quite the same as like actually buying it, so I figure it's not so bad if I get it from the library and read it, and then I know that I've at least read more, like the rest of the series, without having to spend money on it. I believe this is set at the Rio de Janeiro Olympic Games. The other, there was private, what was the other one called? Private Games. Yeah, there was Private Games, which was about the London Olympics in 2012, and this one is about 2016's Olympics in Rio. So I'm interested to see how they've differed it, because it was written by James Patterson, but it was also co-authored by Mark Sullivan as well, the other one. So this could be really interesting. Then I have an interesting book that I saw on one of the Goodreads groups that I'm part of, which was then they were doing like a buddy read of this. Now they finished that buddy read, I believe, but I was like, do you know what, I'm going to try and read something that's massively out of my comfort zone. And this book was apparently burned by Hitler, so I'm kind of like, well, if he didn't like it, then I'm sure I might. This is Buddenbrooks by Thomas Mann, and this follows the decline of a family It's a criticism of the civilization that ended in August 1914. So I believe this is about the First World War. I have no idea. Anyway, like I said, I don't actually know anything about this, apart from it's quite a big book and I feel like this might take me a while to read. But I'm also really interested to just try something a bit different and see how it goes. And then the final book is actually one that I'm planning on reading next, and this is a book that I've heard so many people talk about, and I just need to get on it because it's been too long and I've not read it still. And this one is The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón, and this is about the Cemetery of Forgotten Books, and I think this is actually part of the Cemetery of Forgotten Books trilogy or series of some kind, I'm not sure how many. This is about a young boy whose father allows him to pick a book from the library, and he picks The Shadow of the Wind, hence the name of the book. And then he starts to realise that this book is the only copy left of this book, like the rest of them have all been destroyed, and he then tries to find out about the author and about what the book was and why it was made and stuff. I don't know too much about this. Like I said, I've never heard a bad thing about this book, and I know that he's written other books as well that I've heard really good things about. And like I said, this is the next one I plan on reading, so you'll see this probably in a wrap up soon. So that is my library haul. I have a lot of really exciting books there. Let me know if there's any books you think I should read and get from the library as soon as possible, or if there's any books from this list that you think I should start with, because I'm always interested to hear from you. So give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and press the little notification bell so you get a reminder every time I upload a video, and I shall see you in my next video. Bye guys!